Welcome back to Robots vs. Vampires. I'm Adrian Smith, and I'm excited to have you back with us for another deep dive into the world where robots and vampires, well, they collide.
I'm Julia Jones. I'm here to help us separate the sci-fi from the fantasy.
Today, we're sinking our teeth into a story that puts a pretty interesting twist on the classic vampire curse. The whole burning in sunlight thing.
Right.
Well, our sources today are suggesting something a little bit different.
It's really fascinating how this story flips that classic trope on its head. So instead of spontaneous combustion, our vampire Victor, he faces a much more, let's just say, inconvenient transformation.
Inconvenient might be putting it lightly. Imagine turning into a giant flea-infested bat every single day as soon as the sun rises. Talk about a rough way to start your day.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, it's hilarious. The author uses this very specific transformation, even including that detail about the fleas, to inject a little bit of humor into Victor's situation. It makes you laugh at this centuries-old vampire reduced to, well, a less than glamorous creature of the night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it also makes you really sympathize with Victor.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine the frustration of being stuck as this, bloodthirsty bat for centuries?
Oh, for sure.
Wouldn't you be pretty desperate for a cure?
Of course. And that desperation is really what sends him on this quest to find the Crystal Fang, a relic that is rumored to reverse any curse. It's kind of a classic MacGuffin, the object that sets the hero on their journey and keeps the plot moving forward.
Right.
But it can also be a symbol of temptation and danger, don't you think?
Totally. So Victor finds himself in this creepy crypt, armed with a silver stake and a whole lot of angst. It's classic horror movie setup, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the way these sources describe this crypt with the smell of damp earth and this eerie glow coming from a zombie's eyes, you can practically feel the darkness closing in around Victor.
It's a brilliant use of sensory details. You really feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And speaking of zombies, Victor's encounter with one is pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
He may not be the strongest vampire, but centuries on the run have definitely made him resourceful.
He's agile. There's this one part where he plunges the silver stake right through the zombie's rotting flesh. It's pretty gruesome, but it really emphasizes the danger that Victor's in.
But then, as Victor goes deeper into this crypt, the whole atmosphere changes. The immediate threat of the undead fades away, and you get this more unsettling energy. It makes you wonder what else could be lurking in the shadows. What do you think?
I think it's like the crypt itself is cursed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just a place, it's practically a character.
Exactly. And then Victor finally finds it, the Crystal Fang. Our sources describe it as having this strange allure, this mix of hope and something a little sinister. Does that seem odd to you?
Definitely. It's like the Fang is promising a solution, but at what cost? This whole idea of be careful what you wish for really starts to take shape. Especially because as Victor reaches for the Fang, he comes face to face with another character, this ancient vampire who clearly has his own plans for the relic.
This old vampire is a total mystery. We only know he's powerful, and his motives are definitely not good.
Yeah.
It's a classic power struggle, but with some potentially terrifying consequences.
The confrontation between them is electrical. Victor, driven by desperation, uses the Fang defensively and, let's just say things get explosive.
The way they describe the old vampire disintegrating into ash is so vivid and chilling. It shows you the raw power of the Crystal Fang, but it also makes you think about the potential consequences of having that kind of power.
Victor's curse is lifted, but then he experiences this surge of energy. It's like an echo of the old vampire's power.
Yeah.
It's like he's leveled up, but at what cost?
Right. He's definitely more powerful. But there's something unsettling about it. Remember those silver eyes that the sources mentioned? It makes you think that something more than just his power level has changed.
And that's when the story hits you with this wham line that just leaves you reeling. The cure might actually be worse than the curse. He doesn't burn in daylight anymore, but something about him is different off.
It's a brilliant twist. It completely subverts your expectations of what a cure should be. It really makes you wonder if Victor was better off as a dad.
And that's where we'll leave you hanging on that cliffhanger for now. But we'll be right back to break down the ending and explore what it all means. Don't go anywhere.
Wow, that ending really leaves you hanging, doesn't it? You start to wonder if being free from the curse is really a victory or if it's just the start of something even worse.
Right, like at least when he was a giant bat, Victor was predictable. Now, who knows what he can do with all this new power?
I think that's what makes this ending so good. It's a classic cliffhanger. It just makes you want more. But it's not just about keeping you hooked. It also forces you to think about the deeper meaning of the story.
Like we were talking about before about the Crystal Fang being like a MacGuffin. But it's actually so much more than that. It shows this dangerous need for a quick fix. A solution that might not really fix the problem.
Exactly. And by giving Victor this power surge, the author is kind of asking you what happens when you get exactly what you wished for, but in a way you didn't expect.
Think about it. Victor was ready to risk everything to be free of this curse. He went into a creepy crypt, he fought zombies and an ancient vampire, all so that he could be normal again.
Right. And now he's normal. But it might have cost him everything. It makes you question what normal even is and if it's always something you should be trying to get.
The sources also pointed out something interesting about the way Victor's character changes. He starts out as this kind of pathetic figure, cursed and always on the run.
Right. But all his struggles made him clever and quick. He even shows some real courage, like when he uses the Fang to defend himself against that old vampire.
So even though he ends up with all this power, he didn't just get it for free. He paid a price for it, both physically and emotionally.
And that makes it even sadder that he might become something evil. Because he wasn't always a bad guy, he was just trying to get rid of a curse. And now it's like the cure is what might be turning him into a monster.
Yeah, it's like a warning. Be careful what you wish for, because the solution could create even more problems.
That's what makes a good story so good. It doesn't give you the easy answers. It makes you think about the choices the characters make and what happens because of them.
It makes you wonder, what would you do if you were Victor? Would you use the power, or would you try to fight it? There's no right answer. And that's why this ending is so interesting. It's interesting, this whole idea that the cure could be worse than the problem. It really makes you think about the nature of power and how our choices can have consequences that we didn't intend.
I agree. It speaks to those bigger ideas that the author is exploring, like identity and transformation and, that struggle between good and evil.
We spent a lot of time talking about Victor's journey, but what about the world he lives in? The sources we looked at describe this really interesting mix of science fiction and fantasy.
Right. You've got the vampires and zombies, which are classic fantasy elements, but then there are these little hints of advanced technology, which makes you think it's set in the future.
It's like the author is blending these two genres together to create a world where anything could happen.
Exactly. And that's what makes this story so interesting. It challenges you to rethink what you think a vampire story should be.
It also makes you think about what could happen next. Will Victor use his new power for good? Or will he give in to the darkness inside him?
It's a question that sticks with you long after you finish the story, and I think that's what makes a story really great, when it stays with you and sparks your imagination and leaves you wondering about all the possibilities.
So what do you think will happen next? Will Victor become a hero or a villain? Or maybe something in between?
We want to know what you think. Tell us your theories in the comments.
And don't forget to rate and follow Robots vs. Vampires for more deep dives into the world of speculative fiction.
Until next time, keep those imaginations running wild. And remember, sometimes the best stories are the ones that leave you with more questions than answers.
We'll see you on the next episode of Robots vs. Vampires.